One of them wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
Welcome to another Facebook Live broadcast of Security Guy Radio. Special edition here, 11 a.m. on a Thursday morning, but we'll put this on Monday as well. Mr. Tony, welcome. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Chuck.
So we're going to be really busy in about a month. We're going to Black Hat. You familiar with Black Hat?
I do. I am.
You are Black Hat? Oh, I knew it. I knew it. You are one of those hacker guys. Now we're going to go to Vegas. So the show is really taken off. I have that program called Calendly. I think I can't pronounce it properly, but
close enough.
Yeah. So Black Hat gave us some press pass and said, okay. And we started getting a bunch of invitations and saying, okay, hey, we want you to interview our people. And I've been putting it off because I'm trying to build the Calendly scheduling program. So yesterday I turned it live. I sent out about 35 emails to these agencies. And within an hour, the entire schedule was booked.
Wow.
40 interviews.
Because you're popular.
Yeah. Well, I guess. And that was sufficient, too, that I didn't have to do any extra work on it, call people and get back to them. And so we have 4 days of about, 40 interviews.
Dang, for 40?
40 interviews.
You better rest your voice.
Well, exactly. So I bought an 8x8 backdrop that has a logo on it. We're going to put that up at the show, and people have to come in and stand in front of it and do that. So there's going to be a lot of video to play when I get back.
Look at you, Chuck.
Get my gigabyte thing. Probably have to raise my gigabyte charge.
I probably have
I'm going to go up a little bit. So I thought we'd have a little special guest today because we just so happened to have a friend of mine that's in town, Miranda Coppoolse, from the Netherlands is the proper way to say it, correct? Say it closer to the mic so we can't hear you. There we go. Okay, that's better.
I can hear my voice now.
And now Miranda is all over Facebook. She's all over LinkedIn. She's always traveling around the world doing security things. And she happened to be in L.A. And I said, you got to come to the studio and let's talk about what you do and what's going on, right? So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we were having breakfast and talking about the state of the world. And I want people to kind of do a little bit about your background because it's really interesting. You were not in security. You got pulled into security.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
Well, long story short, I was in retail originally. I was a country manager of like hundreds of stores. And,
like a big chain, national
chain?
Like
a big chain, yeah. In the Netherlands, of course, not a European or whatever. So after, I think, a couple of, 8 years, I was a bit done with the retail industry. It was hard to get good employees, and there was a lot of shootings, robberies, stealing, lazy people working there. Stores were not even open because the people were still in there, or the employees were still in their beds.
And no internal security department in that corporation.
And yes, exactly. So, and the most interesting thing for me was usually about why were people stealing your own people, or people that were coming in, and how could they do it, or why did they do a robbery? What was there to get or to gain for them? So, after 8 years, I was in a relationship with a detective back then. And usually in the Netherlands, it was back then, that was in the 90s, the detectives did everything like together. No, not sleeping. But they went on vacation. They came home, at each other's places, discussed cases. So usually I overheard them and was like, hey, guys, didn't you see this? Or why didn't you think of that? And sometimes they even solved cases because of my view.
Women's intuition.
Probably.
That's right. Smart thinking, right?
Yeah. So, and I really enjoyed it, to be honest. So after a couple of years, they said, why are you not joining our police force? But back then, you had to go to the police academy, and that was 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
So is that in class, or is it part of apprenticeship, or what is it?
No, it's in class, 4 years.
Wow.
And, I think after 2 years back then, I'm not sure yet because it's a long time ago. And then you could join a force for a couple of months, then go back to
you're still
class.
Studying, right?
But you're still studying, yes, for 4 years. And you wouldn't receive a salary. You just got like a tip
Right.
As I said, $300 US dollars,
Right.
let's say, a month. And that for me was a huge difference from my job that I had, the current job back then. Let's say 2,000 US dollars a month to back to 300. It was impossible for
Right.
me. So, and also, well, back to school, if you were like running a whole country of like 100 shops, and I don't know how many employees, 1,000 maybe. So that was no option for me. Although I really liked going to the police, but the money and yeah.
So who gets to be a policeman in the Netherlands if you got to spend 4 years well, it's really like 4 years of college, I suppose. That's the way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
4-year degree.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people doing it. It's of course possible if you have a partner that has a job or a
Right.
good job, and you can afford one to just work and pay the bills, and one to go to school. And usually it are the people that are right from school and still living with their parents or in student homes, so they can afford that. So
All right, so you're not going to go to the academy, but what did you do instead?
Instead, well, a friend of mine or an acquaintance, let's say, he was working on Schiphol Airport. That's the airport from Amsterdam. It's a huge airport. It's a big hub in Europe. And he said, we are starting with a new type of security. It's high risk. We are busy with it for a couple of years, but we want to, make it more intense because the world is changing and we need to do something with it. So why don't you try that? You can see how it is or to feel how it is to work in uniform. And also, if you really like the security aspect.
Well, you must have liked it because you gave up that big job to try and do this, right? That was something you were good at.
Yeah, well, I discussed with my boss back then from the retail chain, and I had a 1-year guarantee of coming back.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah. So that was, I could do it.
Yeah.
I could take the risk. And
you were still with your detective friend at the time.
Yes.
You're still living with your detective. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Did he encourage you to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started out there, I think, but after 3 months, I felt a bit uncomfortable, let's say, to put it nice, because the security people there, although they were great people, don't get me wrong, but I just had another view. So I was telling them like, hey, don't you see that passport is false, or they are lying, or, it's not correct. And or why don't you change your training a bit like this? Because it was, we were trained by an Israeli company back then. And it was really, it was not European focused. So, so after a couple of months, I said, not to annoy anyone and to get bored myself, it's maybe better not to continue. And the day that I discussed that with it was a manager kind of type from the security company. I think a couple of hours later, a guy came up to me and he said, I want to have a word with you. And that was an Israeli guy. And I said, well, who are you? And he said, well, I will not mention his name because of privacy reasons. Right. But I'm from a company, and we do profiling, and we work together with the government. And we have heard such amazing things about you. And we also heard that you were leaving already because you were bored. So we would like to have you work for us. And at first, I said, well, I would love to work for you, but then I would like to work with you as a trainer, and I do not want to be trained by the people who are now supervisors.
Right.
Because
that's why I'm leaving. That's right.
That's the reason why I'm leaving.
Well, was he part of the same company or a different company?
No, he was the boss of the company.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So... and I said, then I want to become a trainer and a supervisor, and I also want to change the system a bit to make it work for Europe, because it's really focused on the Israeli way, and also like how they, I don't know if you're familiar with El Al, the
oh, sure,
airline.
yeah.
And they have a certain type of interrogation, right, which is great, by the way, but for their people, it's too harsh for the European people also, and they have another way of thinking and responding. So they always be suspects, let's say.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, everybody's a suspect,
yes.
right.
So it will save time, and you will get the right people out of line if you just change or adjust it a bit. So he said, well, I don't know yet. And I said, well, just think about it. And he said, I will call you back next week. And I said, well, I'm leaving at the end of the day. So
so hurry up.
You already heard about me, and you obviously discussed me, at the office. You came to me. So this is my offer. I want to do it, but then only under those conditions. So at the end of the day, I got a call, and he said, you're in.
Good.
And I started working for them for, I think, 5 or 6 years, maybe 7. I don't even remember.
Kind of
exactly.
a trainer at the airport.
On airports.
Right.
Yeah.
Other places too, or just mostly the airport?
Airports.
Yeah, ports, plural. Okay.
So
he had contracts at multiple places.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened after the airport gig? Did you want to move on to something else, or what?
Yeah, well, because of my work there, I had a lot of interaction also with the police, fire brigades, and all those kind of things. And then all of a sudden, an acquaintance also, I can say, he said, we have a job now, or at least a place for a chief in Amsterdam.
Chief of police?
Of police.
All right.
From a certain district, the court district.
Okay.
We have 3 courts in Amsterdam, so it's huge. And he said, but they prefer a female, and we have no suitable female. So is it something that you would consider? So I said, well, I can come and have a word.
So you didn't have to go to the 4-year academy?
I didn't. Well, that's what I said also. I said, I'm not a police.
Right.
And they said, well, you have to, because it's a managerial role, we have certain ways to get you in. So they painted you blue.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the name for it. They paint you blue. So that's what I did. And I became the chief.
How long did you do that?
I was there for about 2 months because it turned out, or 2 years, I'm sorry,
2 years.
because it turned out to be a desk job, and I'm more of an operational person. And I was, I think, the only one, or the only one, but one who's really involved with their men. I really had a lot of respect for the people working there.
How big was your force?
About 150, I think.
Okay.
So I'm
It's
not
good. That's
sure.
a good size. Yeah.
It's a long time ago. Yeah, it was a good size. Great people. But I got kind of bored, and my hands were tied. And they were not really open. The people, that are like running the whole force, to make some changes. So after I think 2 years, I decided to leave, and I was already interested in really becoming a detective, and because I was in the field already, so I went on to Interpol.
Really?
Yeah.
How fascinating. Now,
No.
I don't know that much about Interpol. I did
and
send
I
them.
cannot tell you too much about it.
That's the
either.
point. That's it,
Yeah.
right? I know. So when I was at Disney, I had a caper where somebody was trying to kill our executives, and they posted it online in these hate groups and all that stuff. So I put a case together where I connected, strangely, a neo-Nazi hate group and a Muslim hate group that posted the exact same material, word for word, right? 2 groups that supposedly hate each other, right? But they had the same material. And then I found out that the website administrator was tied back to somebody, one of the princes in Saudi Arabia or some crazy thing like that out of England.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
It was very interesting. It was obviously a big propaganda network and all kinds of things. So I put all these connections together, and I sent this whole thing to Interpol and said, look what I found. All these connections, this hate group and that hate group are working together, and blah, blah. Nothing. Crickets, no response, no. So I was a little disappointed because I thought I bubbled onto some international terrorist organization, but I didn't even get an email back that said, okay, thanks. So I get what you're saying, international police, so to speak, but just give us a rough overview of what they do and what they can do.
Well, they work internationally, of course, on cases.
They're comprised of different members from different countries?
Yes. Well, in the Netherlands, usually, yeah. Well, of course, they are all Dutch because they work there. But usually, we have all liaison officers everywhere.
Oh,
so
okay.
They work with different.
I didn't realize that. I
countries.
thought maybe it's like because when I was a cop, there was a task force, and you had 5 agencies that worked together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in
Yeah.
Amsterdam, then that's they're Dutch, and if they're in Italy, they're Italian.
Yeah,
Is that it?
they're not located in Amsterdam though.
Okay.
They're another part of the Netherlands.
All right, but they have offices all around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you do for them?
Investigations.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's
That's it. Okay. Well, thanks, Tony. Thanks for coming in. That's the end of the show. We're all done here. All right. So, international.
No, but
investigating.
it's an international thing. But it's a certain system. It's also a police system. We have different systems. We have the police force,
Right.
like the officers. We have Interpol, and we also have an intelligence service.
Right.
AIVD.
I remember when I was a young
yeah.
policeman in Culver City, we had a dispute at one of the at Sony studios,
Mm-hmm.
and there was 2 producers that were arguing about office space or something like that, and we started running people. You always run people for a warrant just in case, and one guy had an Interpol warrant, and I said, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with that because that's some kind of giant organized crime caper or something like that. But we contacted them, and they came out, and eventually somebody enforced
Yeah,
that.
then
So,
come.
so they
Yeah.
can do international warrants. They can do a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
But do they have an immediate reach, or is it more of a? Do they need permissions from the countries they're in to act, or do they have some kind of worldwide authority that I'm not familiar with?
No. Yeah. Well, they need some kind of
Cooperation with the local.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how long did you work for them? That's all we're going to get out of this segment, so that's okay. We'll move on.
A couple of years. I
Yeah.
worked for them on the location in the Netherlands for about a year and a half.
Right.
But I can't stand the system, to be honest. And I already figured it out. I think when I became the chief of that court police force. But I was not sure, and I just run into walls all the time.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into security, and also I stayed a detective, of course. So I'm still an international detective.
Oh, with Interpol.
I've done some things for them.
Tony, I think we're in danger here.
But we have.
I think we're going to be arrested shortly.
But we have licenses as well for private detectives.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
All right. So now what do you do?
So now I'm.
Because you're always traveling. You're always on Facebook and LinkedIn, all around the world, traveling, doing stuff.
yeah.
It's very interesting.
True. Yeah.
Mystery woman.
Well, my best friend's my brother from another mother. I call him Noel Whelan. He has his own company, NGW. And, I started joining him as a freelancer, though. But business is good.
So
I
very
must say.
interesting pathway.
So we do, like what every security company more or less does, like threat assessments, advice, like consulting. But also, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's training the special forces and SWAT teams in tactical weapon training, CQB, So that's really cool.
So this is a fascinating background.
Mhm.
It's a non-traditional path. And most people
Absolutely.
that have a lot of fun with what they do in life and are successful
Mm-hmm.
have those sort of pathways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you discover what you like through trying to do it and succeeding
Exactly.
at it.
But also, I need to admit that although I don't want to see it, I really want to make a point of it, but as a female or woman in security, it's not, you have to fight harder and you need to know more.
Yeah, I believe that.
So I wanted to know a bit of everything and then see what I liked most. But it turned out I liked a lot of things. So I stayed, doing all those things all those years.
So tell me what some differences are you see from American models and European models as far as security goes, because there are different things. I think American models are based on fortification, hard targets, guards, technology. European to me, and I don't know, but just from what people have talked to me about, they seem to be more involved in the people and the citizens and safety, and it's more integrated, whereas here security is kind of looked at as a thing you have, you don't want to have it, but you got to have it.
Same
What's the
in the
differences?
Netherlands.
You think so?
Yeah. They don't really like security because we close the doors that they want to have, they want to open. And we have really a difference between safety and security. Exactly what I said, door open or door closed.
Right. But you have so many more serious concerns over there, really, in a way.
Yeah,
Actual
there's
attacks,
a lot going on, but that's my opinion. There's a lot of ostrich politics. So, and I like to. I think the government knows way more, but keeps the people calm. Is not telling them everything. So. You have to find the right channels to get your information everywhere. And, social media or the media is, of course, a great thing to get your information from.
So Europe...
Or connections everywhere in the world.
Right. With the European Union, it's sort of, not completely, but sort of like the United States. So now they're Europe are the states of Europe, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not the same centralized government. I get all that. They're separate governments and things. But you got open borders.
Yeah.
Now, we have open borders here through the states.
They're trying to close them, by the way, now.
Right. So what's going on with that? I think that just creates a whole new level of security threat that we don't really have here as much. You cross the borders of the United States, it's not really the same because we have independent law enforcement in each state that has their own rules and they do their own investigations and we keep track of that. But how do you keep track of it if it's completely open and you can go from country to country instead of state to state?
Tough. It's really tough.
Do you think do you see the crime on the rise and things like that? I think this is part of the...
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's part of the terrorism problem. I think they're too free to just go where they want to go and do what they want to do.
Yeah. They can go everywhere.
So why do the governments...
And you see them, they are going everywhere now.
Right. So is it because the governments don't share data between each government or what's going on?
Yes, government police agencies, somehow they say they are sharing more data, but they left out a lot. It's so obvious that they don't share everything.
And what kind of alert systems do they have that are different than ours? We have, the whole country can go to orange or something right here.
Mm-hmm.
But does all of Europe go on one alert system? Let's say
we
after
also
Nice
have
or
color
something.
codes.
So what happened after Nice,
Nothing.
for example? Nothing. Well, can you elaborate on that? I mean,
yeah, we have still the same color code, which is orange.
Right.
Which, they say, there might be a threat, but there's not really anything that will lead saying that it will happen now. So
this was in the Netherlands
we are on
specifically.
an alert, but nothing really is happening. Sometimes when we hear when the police get something in, an announcement from like a civilian or from social media, like, hey, something is going on and it's coming your way, then you see some more military guys but it's not really a big thing yet.
But it's in Brussels, like an hour away from Amsterdam or something?
Exactly.
I mean, that's like saying, they just attacked Los Angeles, but we're not going to tell San Diego about it, which is like an hour and a half away.
Well, they tell us about it, but they don't.
They don't take any extra security measures.
Maybe on the airport you see some more military personnel, but it's not really that big. Still, they're calming it down.
Is it just politics or what?
I think it's politics, also because they cut down the force. There's a lot going on with in the police force. So they changed from local to international or to national police, and they are reorganizing a lot. So I think altogether it's just adding up and not in for the good.
So the Netherlands used to have regional police, and now it's all one police
national,
force.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
is that happening in other countries that you're aware of?
There are some national police, I think in France as well. Yeah.
Because they're not doing that here, but they're talking about it. So some police departments have been in a federal decree to follow federal guidelines and federal mandates and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the first step to saying, you know what, you guys can't do your job. Let's make it all a federal police department, which will be a disaster, by the way, in this country anyway. Because LAPD, who's arguably one of the best police departments in the world, will not function well in New Orleans. It's cultural. LA police match LA city. They match the culture, right? And to have one federal police department, I don't know. What happened when it shifted in Holland from local to national?
Yeah,
what happened?
Because some people, like for instance, Amsterdam, had to go all the way to or The Hague or another city or maybe even a little village, or the other way around. Or the other way around. So, they were not used to the culture because even like you said, in Chicago or LA, they're totally different cultures already.
Right.
And we have that as well. Although we are a small country, we have different cultures in every city or village.
So what happened when they shifted? Was it a big...
Unhappy people. A lot of people got sick or got out
Oh, so some cops just quit because they want to do it.
Yeah, there are a lot of, I've heard, but I cannot confirm it, lawsuits going on against the police from their own people because they were not happy.
Because of the change.
Yeah.
How long ago did that happen?
I think then I've been traveling too much. I think the last 3 years, something.
Okay, that's
yeah,
interesting.
Not too long.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, what else is going on in security in Europe? Do they still require training that we have here? We mostly have training in most states now. Some states have no training, but in the United States, each state has its own separate security division that allows licensing and all that kind of stuff. Is it the same in Amsterdam or Europe, or is security treated like a profession? Here, it's not a profession as much at the guard level. It's kind of like, there's a guard, I can get another guard tomorrow, and if you quit, I'll get another guard.
Yeah.
At the guard level, it's not.
Yeah.
It's more like a job than a profession. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same with us. Although it's changing a bit because of all the conditions, that's going on now with ISIS. So they're respecting the securities companies more and more, and also the cards. And you can also even see, and sorry to say, because also they were nice, but you see the quality is changing of the cards. So they can more alert people in better shape.
It's getting better.
It's getting a
Well, that's
little
good.
better, yeah. Because they take it more serious now.
Yeah.
The security companies itself as well. And also the licenses are changing a bit now. So there are more trainings for them. So you can have you can select them better because of that.
Are guards armed over there anywhere?
No.
No guns for guards.
No.
'Cause here we have guns for guards at certain locations.
No, not at my knowing. No.
So what is the next big thing you think is going to happen with security in Europe?
Well, I think there are really a lot of security companies, thousands in that small country. So I think it will select itself a bit, like the good companies, because we also have like a G4S and security.
Yeah, you got the big ones, right? But you're saying in addition to those big ones.
Yes, but you see, and I'm sorry to say, their quality is going down.
The
so
big
they
ones.
they just deliver people.
Yeah, well, that's what.
And you see that the smaller security companies are more delivering quality. And since the people are getting more scared, they want quality and not just a person standing there.
Right.
So you see, it's still in the beginner's phase, but you still see now some changes. So, yeah, that's good. And I hope it will evaluate.
Yeah, every couple months, one of the big guard companies buys another big guard company. And I forgot where there used to be, 10 big guard companies. Now there's 3 or 4 big guard companies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still the local regionals, a lot of those. I think California, we have 1,600 guard companies in California. But mostly it's, a retired cop. He's got 5 clients, and he makes a little bit of money plus his pension, and that's great. And there's some medium-sized companies. But the big ones do have the problem because they're so big, you can't keep a handle on all the personnel and all that kind of stuff. And wasn't it one of the really big ones that got in trouble for... No. One of the big ones was the guard that stopped the guy at Paris, wasn't it? Wasn't that one of the big companies that their guard recognized somebody and didn't let him in the stadium?
Yeah.
So that was a success, but there was something else where something happened too. So you can't really win in that business,
No.
But
how you don't know. Some people appear like really capable in their interview,
right,
and have a good resume, and then you never know what's going on at home, of course. And if you're a big company, you're not really involved with your people, so you cannot guide them or help them. And I see with the smaller companies, they're more into their own people, and they see what's going on more faster and help them. So I think the quality for now, as far as I've seen from the smaller companies, is better.
Do the police work with the security in Europe, or do they respect it, or is it just 2 separate things?
They are 2 separate things, but they more and more are willing to work together. So, and they have to, because we have not enough police.
There's not enough police, right?
No.
Yeah, I talked to a guy who has an app in California.
And a lot of police guys also are going into security because they are paid more there.
Oh, let's talk about that. I didn't know that. How can that be?
Yeah. It's private, and police is governmental. They don't pay
but
that
still,
well.
I mean, apparently they don't pay that well at all. What's
Yeah.
a policeman make in Amsterdam?
Well, that depends on their level. I think
Average guy, an average street guy.
maybe let's say 1,800.
A month?
Yeah.
Wow. That is kind of low. Well, but is the quality of life and cost of living different over there? It's not. It's not cheap, right?
No,
Yeah.
it's here.
Yeah. And a guard can make more if you're in a good manager position or something?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, not even in a manager's position. Also, when you do like night shifts or whatever, or those kind of, it pays off. So, yeah.
Let's talk about domestic violence. Because I've had an interview with a young lady that lives over there, and I think she lives in The Hague. And she was telling me how the domestic violence laws are, I mean, for lack of a better term, it's medieval. It's ancient, right?
Yeah.
And that women really don't have much of a voice when it comes to domestic violence. The police don't do much.
It's not even about women. It's even elderly people who are abused by.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the police, my impression was that the police don't get involved because of, if they didn't see it, it didn't happen. Is that kind of what's going on? There's just no laws that enforce things too.
Yeah. You can say that. It's getting better, though. They are paying a bit more attention. But as I said, we don't have enough officers. So
but
it's hard for them to...
Yeah, but is it that or is it the law's not there too?
Oh, both. Yeah. Yeah. They only if they see it, then they can do something about it. So if you say you're hit and you don't have really any proof other than a black eye, then, that's it. So somebody almost had to film it when you were beaten up, and then...
Well, that's not inconsistent with misdemeanor laws. So if you commit a misdemeanor crime and I did not see you as a police officer, I cannot arrest for you. A felony, I can, right? So they changed the domestic violence laws from misdemeanors to felonies. So then if I think you committed a crime and I have some evidence, I can arrest you for that. So maybe those laws haven't caught up. But what she was talking about was just kind of a cultural shift where there's really not a culture that defends the women in those cases. It's more like, well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, the law is not really capable of helping people in our country at states for domestic violence, at least. But I know they are working on it because, of course, they see also that it's not working, and there's a lot of domestic violence.
Why so? What do you think the cause is? I'm just curious.
A lot of people get out of jobs. The economy crisis hit hard, so a lot of frustrating people. There's a high crime rate in the Netherlands, really high.
Oh, you never would think that about that.
Mm-hmm. It looks so nice.
Think of tulips and windmills and wooden shoes and everything else.
We have that too.
That's right. Well, I went there when I was a kid in the 70s, and I just thought it was the most beautiful place on earth.
Yeah.
And I was the only one that didn't have blonde hair. Literally. I went to, the Tivoli Gardens or something?
The what?
There's like a gardens there that's like it's not an amusement park. It's like a gathering place. I can't remember what it was.
In Amsterdam?
Yeah, I think it was down by the
Vondelpark.
Something like that. Yeah. So it's like a lot of people, right? So I'm walking around, and I'm like 6'1", and most people are a little shorter than I was, and you could see my head like sticking out.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
They're taller now.
Yeah, it was all blonde people, and here's this guy with black hair, and he's going, "Who's that guy with black hair? It's a foreigner! Get him out of here!"
And now it's the opposite.
So tell me what you do now. What you do a lot of traveling, and I know you just kind of settled down with this new gig. But before that, when you were traveling, what are these international security gigs we see? Because I see other people on Facebook that are traveling a lot. There's other people on LinkedIn that travel a lot and do security.
Yeah.
How do those contracts work? I've never really quite understood.
Networking.
Well, that part I get, but I mean, legally, you get on a plane, do they pay you to travel? Do they pay you to stay at a hotel?
Yeah.
Then they pay you a salary?
Yeah.
And then do you have to be licensed locally, or do they do something else? How does that work?
That depends. It depends on what you're doing. If you just give a training, then you don't need a license.
Well, I
you
suppose
can
so,
just
right?
sit in a classroom and give the training to them. And if they want some advice, sometimes maybe about Europe or about a certain thing that happened to them, you don't need a license. So, no. If you want to become like a security guard or work as a police, then you need certain licenses because, then you go in, you dig into some people's personal lives probably. So that's why. And
you didn't do executive protection per se?
No.
How come? I'm just curious. I mean, some people like it, some don't.
Because it's, I never really, I have considered it for one bit, but it's, I don't know, it's not really my thing.
There's a lot of demand
'Cause
for
I
female
like to do
executive
something,
protection.
but I don't want to walk next to someone all the time, or be with someone and don't have a life. Although I don't have a life now.
I don't know.
I'm always on the
Did
run.
you see her Facebook page, Tony? She's all over the world, traveling all over the place. I'm just national, not international yet. Although somebody
No,
wants
but I
me
like
to go to Europe.
to somehow. Yeah, well, I will go and try it. I think soon. I don't know why. It's now a lot of people are talking about it, so I think why not?
There's
why
a
not
demand
try?
for it.
Yeah,
There's a rise.
and
in
there
the
are a
demand.
lot of companies now approaching me because they need females.
Yeah, specifically. I mean,
But
what
it was more, I have
what do
to
they
say,
need
more
them
a
for?
U.S. thing. It was never really that big of a thing in Europe. Only maybe for the royal family or those.
Yeah,
kind
the
of-
royal families like females for the kids, let's say, or
Yeah.
something like that, right? But when they say in Europe, we need a female, what does that mean? It means something maybe similar here.
What? Because maybe your client is a female, and they, that's,
They request it, you mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like over here it might be, we need it for political reasons, we need it for all kinds of other things, instead of just the fact that women are qualified, which is a great thing to be.
No, that's not
Yeah.
in Europe yet. No.
Oh, that's good.
No.
All right. What else you got going on? Another trip coming up?
For now, well, back to Amsterdam, I hope. For
You hope. Oh, you're going to get stuck in a youth hostel
Yeah,
or something?
Probably. Oh my God, that was a story, right?
Well, let's hear it. Tell us the story.
Oh God,
That was kind of funny.
that was kind of funny. Yeah. Well, I was traveling the last couple of months from the Middle East to Malta to Japan to Spain, and then I was home for a couple of days. And I all of a sudden saw that my ticket was changed, so I decided to stay a couple of days longer in Houston because I had to go to here, the U.S. And I thought, I don't have a hotel there, so let me quickly book a hotel. So I went online, really tired and jet lagged already because I all those countries, even Japan is like a 7-hour time difference or something. So I went online and I thought, 4-star hotel, Houston, around Midtown, Museum District, could be fun, book it. And I arrived around 10 a.m. at a hotel. And I was parked there with the taxi and I looked at the house. Yes, I say house. So I was like, a bit weird for a hotel. It looks great. It was
Right.
an awesome house. But
But they advertise it as a hotel.
they advertised it as a hotel. So I thought, well, maybe I haven't looked well enough. It's a bed and breakfast or something.
Yeah.
But okay, I will stay there only for 3 nights. So I'm fine. It looked great. So I came in and the girl behind the desk said, well, welcome. And, you have room number 3 and that's upstairs. And I said, where's the elevator? And she said, well, that's only one stair, so we don't have an elevator. I said, okay. And she said, well, the breakfast is here in the room next door. And I looked, and it was really a room with 1 or 2 tables. And it was clean, though, but that didn't look like a hotel. So I was like, am I in a hotel? She said, well, yeah. She said, but your room is upstairs. So she gave me the keys. She said, oh, by the way, you have bed number 8.
Oh, no.
So I walked up the stairs, walked back to her. I said, what did you say, room number 8? She said, yeah, room number 3, bed number 8. And I was like, really? But I was so tired, so I walked up and opened the door, switched on the light, and then I heard all kind of people, shh, turn off the lights. And I looked.
It says 10 o'clock in the morning.
No, in the evening.
Oh, in the evening. I'm
PM.
sorry. Okay, all right.
Yeah. And by then it was like 10:30, I think. And I looked around and I saw 8 bunk beds.
Oh, no.
So that's what she meant by bed number 8. But I was so tired, so I thought, just sleep and we'll see tomorrow.
Well, Miranda Coppoolse,
Yeah.
you did notice that Miranda, your first name is the Miranda Law in California, famous
Yeah.
case. And then Coppoolse, the first 3 letters are cop.
You
Just
you
figured that
told
out, right?
me, yeah.
See, after all these years, you didn't notice that.
Awesome, right?
Miranda the cop, yeah.
Miranda the cop, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on Security Guy Radio. It's been an interesting conversation, and I'm glad you could stop by in LA and see
Thanks
us
for
because
inviting
we've been friends on LinkedIn for a couple of years at least, and
And we've
watched
seen each other and
the escapades
Yeah.
and stuff, right? And I'm glad we finally got to meet. So it's been a great show. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you
Right.
for inviting me.